Indie housing market. Get the latest insights right here.
Welcome back to Indie Housing Market. I'm Kyle.morris with Morris Property Group and FC Tucker.
And I'm Shelly Walters with the Shelly Walters Realty Group and FC Tucker.
Man, what happened to the weather, dude?
I know it's back and forth.
72
yesterday, and today I had my winter coat on again. So
Yeah. Yesterday was beautiful, though.
I know. I hope it settles down into one calm 70 forever.
Yeah, I just want it to be San Diego.
I know.
Right, that's what I want.
That's the
San
best
Diego,
part
the
about
Midwest.
San
That's what I'm looking
Diego.
for. So we're kind of talking about what we wanted to discuss today, and we'll just go kind of over like the pulse of the market today in particular. I mean, we do that every week, but like we always try to add others. Guess and just value and dialogue. But the market is, so we just got through all the spring breaks, right? Noblesville just got back. We have Easter this Sunday for anybody who participates in Easter, right? I don't want to be presumptuous there. But when we looked, I can't remember when we saw that. That may have been January. The highest month of transactions for Indianapolis last year was June, right? And we always talk about the spring market, but it's really, I think the spring market always is just really, really felt because it's such a ramp up from
just all of a sudden
from the
here
winter,
we go.
right?
Yeah.
And then, but really, like by the time you get to June, like you're just clicking on all cylinders, so you don't notice it as much, right? Because you just have been busy, and it kind of feels. Now that we saw that, right, which I thought was really neat to look back at that, because we kind of just go week to week, month to month, and then we'll do a year overlook, and we don't kind of necessarily always look at like the entire year like that. I can feel it because, I think in the past 4 days I've gotten 3 more listings like sent my way, which is a lot. I think just me, myself, I have like 10 listings that I have to get on the market in like the next 4 weeks, 5 weeks, which is a lot to get on the market. And that's not even my team. Like that's just me personally. And so you can feel the inventory coming.
I
and
think
you and I
it
were
is,
talking about that.
I'm getting the calls too. I'm having a hard time, like you said, just getting the appointments to go meet with these people because it's like everybody wants to list all of a sudden, and
Yes.
I'm not sure what happened.
I have noticed though, none of the phone calls I've received or text or whatever it may be, instant messages, nobody's been like, I want to go on the market next week. Everybody has like a pretty reasonable timeline. Two of them were like, hey, we got to do this like ASAP.
Family issues, and you and I don't do that. Like, we don't throw houses up like
Yeah,
that.
I'm a
And I told him I
process.
can try it. 2's going to make me sad, but I'll be able to help you.
Depends
But
on
they
condition of the house or the price that you want to list it at.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what's going to come into play, in my opinion. If you list rapidly, I either can't get it in the condition I want, or you already got it in the condition it needs to be in, which is, let's be honest, rare.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's just always really, really interesting. Like I have seen a lot of kind of, we really got into a groove over the past couple of years of when people list houses. I've seen that change this year pretty significantly. I'm not sure why either.
I just think the change is more people are calling to list their houses. My feel for what we do, I do mostly listings myself, but that number of phone calls and interest of, I think we're going to do it. We need to do it right now, but like you said, is that what's coming? Just the 2 of us talking about it.
Yeah.
We haven't really talked about 15, 20 more agents, what they're feeling. But if it's just a sign of what you and I are seeing, there's probably some inventory getting ready to let go, which is a good thing, because I was telling you that last weekend I went out with the buyers. We were looking in the 400,000 range in Carmel and Fishers, and I got the email from, we put in a multiple offer situation, and that one was listed at early 390s, and we went in at 410, and it sold for much higher than that. I was told.
When did it go on the market, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, I know. That's a whole nother conversation I have with my sellers, that they want to go on immediately, and I have that rule too. So that's another tangent of a conversation. Both of them hit the market like on Thursday.
Okay.
And there was multiple offers. This was their first time out, so having that conversation with them about what they're getting ready to get into was already done. But then again, to talk about it when it's time to make the offer, I just almost think sometimes that first one has to be the education of here's what it's going to be like. Go for it and do what you can do. But then they learned we've got to go back down on our price because if we have to go higher, they were very uncomfortable going higher than what they wanted. But that's because they were looking at a house as high as they could go.
Yep.
And I think buyers just don't not listen to you, but they just can't fathom, are you serious? This is really going to happen? And I told them that I think it was just an education process because they didn't want to do that high, but they had to for that competition. And they just said, I'm really glad that we had that opportunity and that we didn't get it because it forced us to get something we really were going to go a little high on. So they're ready for the next time to look at a lower price and be ready for everything they need to do to win. So I don't think the first one is something that you can do with a buyer and have them really trust that that's the process. But then another house we looked at that was our second choice of making an offer, that agent emailed here, we had multiple offers. So their conversation or their email to me was, we had 33 showings in one day. We had 12 offers, all of over list. And that's just the pulse of what I'm seeing. If it's a great house and it's their first couple of days and it's in that lower price point where other people are probably more involved in looking than we are in the higher numbers. But those were just the two we looked at, and both of them were going to be a difficult situation.
What was the one you said it was 30 showings, 11 offers? 33 showings
in one day,
12 offers, 11 over list.
All of them.
11 of them. Oh, all of them were over list. So we talk about this a lot on my team too, and it really kind of started around COVID. Well, first of all, like with just showing houses in general, like I'm gonna make up a number here, but I know it's just a low number just to kind of like show it. How many times when you represent a buyer, on average in a year, is it you actually write an offer and get the very first house that you actually look at? I don't mean the first one you write on. I mean the very first house you go look at.
Yeah, that's a whole nother thing because these guys
10%
just
max.
started. Yeah, that's hard for anybody to do.
It makes me uncomfortable as an agent if you've only looked at one house. Now,
Yes.
I will say it does happen on occasion if I have a buyer who I know has been looking but just like online, or they have something very, very specific, and like I've talked to them over the years, but we just haven't gone and looked, or like whatever it may be. Or if it's a house where I'm like we're not going to beat this house,
Yeah,
like
I
that
get kind of
happens
mad
sometimes.
at it too. Like
Yeah.
it's their first time out, but not mine.
Right? Yeah.
Not mine in this first price point. But when we do that, and they see what they really, really like, to say that, it's hard because they have to trust you. And
Because there's always another house.
And right now, that
There's
is
always
happening.
another house.
So my buyers are all comfortable waiting right now. And I haven't seen that in a while, which is telling me the inventory is coming on and staying on, and they're seeing that.
Correct.
So my buyers are all like, oh, another one's going to be on the market. They just keep coming on. And that's what I'm hearing from all my buyers. So are your buyers kind of feeling the same way?
Yes. And then let's see, what else have I dealt with when you're talking about like the competitive offers? When somebody is new to the marketplace, my experience is generally you have to write an offer to lose to find out what it takes to write a winning offer, because it is such it can be hard to digest what it can take in a competitive market, right? And so they'll be like, oh, I'll be like, all right, we got on this one, we got to write 10 over, guarantee it, right? Like, let me know what I was like. I can write you an offer that I think will win it, one that'll put you in the top 3, or like let's write an offer to see where we're at in it. And usually, I'll tell them like let's just say it's, hey, like I think this is an offer that can win it, 10 over, 10 guaranteed, no inspection items that are less than 1,000, 700, 500, whatever, right?
Threshold.
And they're like, all right, we like that, but we'll only guarantee 7,500 of it, and I'm just like, okay. I'm like, I'll write whatever you want, because like that's just what I do. I'll write whatever you want, but I still will, just tell you like what my thoughts are on it. First of all, the idea that we're fighting over that $2,500, like you're just doing it to, no offense, for to try to, I
Principal
don't even know.
or
Yeah,
just-
principal. It's
So,
principal, yeah.
The thing about that is I've learned that's been helpful. One time a lender told me a while back is change your down payment. So like there's people that are putting 20 or 25% down or 10 or 15, whatever their percentage they're putting down.
It's the same amount brought to the table.
But if the appraisal gap is, let's say, 10,000 and you get hit with all 10,000, you
Drop
now
your
only put
percentage.
down a different percentage. So
Because anything short of 20, it doesn't move the meter.
I know, and that's just telling them it's like, are you willing, in your situation, are you willing to lose the house over $2,500 that may not even happen?
Right.
And that you can eat up by just going to a different down payment of $2,500. So I have my lenders run the numbers. Okay, here's the down payment you want to do. We have $10,000 appraisal gap. Please run the numbers to change their down payment by that $10,000, which is the maximum we would end up doing. And I always think if it's that short, $10,000 of over, we're not going to have an appraisal issue almost always. But I had the lender run those numbers, and this, like I said, just happened this weekend. And they're like, oh, okay. We may get hit with 10, we may get hit with 5, we may get hit with 2. But to not do the $2,500 gap, that $2,500 off your
The
down
extra.
payment is not going to move the
It's
needle at
negligible.
all. So they have to see numbers. I
They
think.
do, and I always walk them through the numbers. But I mean, I just had one. I closed it yesterday. We were 10 over, 10 guaranteed, and it came in, I think maybe $3,000 short. We brought 3,000 of the 10. So. But it's just interesting because when you're in this kind of a market, if you're not used to it, and I think a lot of people are used to it these days, but I think people thought it died off, and it did seasonally
feel
over the
that
past 6 months, but it's back.
Yeah, I know, and it's been weird for me too because I was always like, yeah, it's kind of happening right now. I'm like, I think it's going to happen. If you've got a great house,
Just
it's
go
going to
get
go.
it.
It's going to be a
'Cause
multiple offer.
We tell people, or I do. I don't say we. When people are struggling there, I'm like, do whatever you want to do, right? But like, if the money is not the issue, it's just like this ideology behind it. I just tell people you will never forget the house that you may have paid $5,000 extra for, but you will always forget the house that you wanted that you lost because of $5,000. Because I mean, you're talking about with current interest rates, $35 a month
Yeah,
difference.
whatever it is, and then if it becomes an issue, refinance. We always say, which I don't know if they'll ever get down enough.
Yeah,
to
rates
be
are going up, not
refinancing.
down right now.
I know, but so the other part of that is just talking to buyers about what to expect. But when they actually have it in front of them, it's like everything you talked about went out the window. Like, no, I really have to do this? It's like, be prepared. If you're a buyer, be prepared to know that the worst case scenario is a larger number for the price. An appraisal gap is guaranteed. You have to do that because everybody else will if you won't. Because I come from the side of when I do listings, I see the offers come in. You
Yeah.
see the offers come in. We know what most offers look like. And I know that because of what I see is most offers, how they get presented to me, that helps me to know how to write a good offer and come to the top because a lot of people don't. And it's amazing, unfortunately, for some agents to just kind of throw an offer at, never make the phone call. Like, all of a sudden you get an offer in your email, and I'm like, when did that happen? And they don't call you, don't anything. So just as being a listing agent, it really does help us to see what the world's doing and to counteract that when it's our turn.
I have agents right now over the past couple of weeks who are calling me asking about transactions that I've closed.
Me too.
Yeah. And they're
Me
like, hey,
too.
what was the activity on that? What did it look
Yeah.
like? Where, did you get multiple offers, all this other stuff? It's
Which is a good thing.
It's a weird thing. It's encouraging that people are trying to find out more information. It's discouraging that people don't know the pulse of the market at the same time. But
if you're doing something in the neighborhood, like I had somebody call me and ask me, you're pending. Do you mind?
It's been that. Yeah, that's what I've received.
But
yeah.
you just say, if, calling, this is what I do, and I did get a call on this particular one, and she said, you're pending, I'm getting ready to price a house. And she said, can you mind telling me what it is? That's your best market numbers right there.
Yeah.
And an agent who won't tell you, I really don't understand that. That's something they always say, that you don't give it out because in case it falls through, I don't know. 9 times out of 10, there's no reason that you should. I don't know why it would be important not to. But if I call and ask and they tell me what the pending price is, I am so appreciative because that's our newest best comp. And if there's like 3 pending in the neighborhood, all getting ready to close before we get on the market, those are our 3 comps that we need. And so help each other with that. Again, I would love for somebody to tell me why that's not right to do. But in my case, we were 75,000 over the list price that I had on there. So that was going to be a big difference for that agent. They were getting ready to put an offer or a price in there based on all the comps before, but here's your new one, 75,000 higher than the next highest one. And that's going to make a big difference for you when you list that house to come in like that. And I just always want to know the most recent pendings, but when we have those pendings, it's the same thing if you're looking and listing a house and you're trying to do the market analysis. Just looking at the sale price, what it sold for. So like if you have 3 houses that sold, 450, 450, and 450, they all sold for 450, you're going to say that's the list price. But what if they were all listed at 410, 405, and 415? Those are your list price you really need to think about. The 450s are because everybody had multiple offers. So like you said, calling the agents and asking, how many offers did you get?
Well, I can only do it if my seller lets me, right? First
Correct.
of all. But like
I know.
the other piece is, most likely they're calling because something moved, right? And then whatever they price is going to be priced higher than me, most likely because of that. So it doesn't really hurt me because if anything, they're going to go on the market more expensive than me.
I would
right?
assume, yeah.
Right, exactly. So I just don't see. I agree with you, but it's all case by case. But it's really odd. So we're talking about all these listings, and I don't currently have a lot of buyers I'm working with, which is really interesting. But I do a lot of social media and stuff, and I do see what other agents are doing, and so I can kind of keep an eye on that. Like everybody on my team is pretty listing heavy right now, and I never know if that's the pulse of the market or the momentum of my team.
Correct.
Just because my team is, we've been I think I'm 8 years in, and my team is I've had my team 6.5 years, and we just keep growing. And so it's like, is it the momentum of the team or is it the market? Sometimes I have to really pay attention to that. And I see buyers out there. I mean, I just listed one last week, and we had we didn't have 30 showings. We had 7 on the first day, right? I had 11 groups through an open house, really decent traffic, I would say. I don't have an offer on it. I've had some second showings and people who want to write offers. So not every house is listing or selling right away, but they're selling pretty quick, right? And so the stats kind of represent that we'll get into. But I just think it's very house dependent. And so kind of going back to when I was saying that I see people listing on different days than kind of what the market had gotten used to a little bit. I don't understand it. Unless there's just I've had a couple in my career where it's an investment property. It doesn't super matter, right? Yeah. Something went sideways and it got delayed or whatever it may be, right? Or it may be a personal situation. I don't know. But, I was talking to, I think we talked about on the show, there was one that a couple of weeks ago I was talking to somebody and we were going to go look at it on a Tuesday. And it had gone on the market on a Monday. And they had multiple offers over list. And I think they had 3, right? I just don't know a world that exists where if that's on the market over the weekend, it doesn't get more than that. Because it's just the reality of the work week. And people have a life. And people have, I do showings every single day, but, I have kids. Sometimes I have random stuff I go to with my children where they have an event or a sporting or practice or whatever it may be. And so if you're going to list the house, why wouldn't you list it when most people have the most availability? I get it, people, if you have children, you have sporting events on the weekend too, but you also have 15 hours to look at instead of, what do you have after work? Most people get off somewhere between 4:30 and 5, and then people got to get home. So I would say you have a 3-hour window to 4-hour window for somebody to look at a house. I just don't know why you wouldn't do it on a Thursday to get as many eyeballs through the weekend. I'm not being critical of other agents. I just wish I want somebody to come on and explain it to me where that's beneficial to your client to list earlier in the week.
Well, the whole thing, and that's so funny you said that because that happened to me.
It just doesn't work in my head.
Me neither.
Based on how people live life.
But I've been doing it for 16 years, and I've never, ever worried about listing on a Wednesday or a Thursday. Never even thought about it till COVID happened.
Yeah, that's when it changed.
The multiple offers and everything like that. There is a system. It was hit the market Thursday, be done by Sunday, every single listing. And so that's just ingrained in my head now that it works.
Yeah.
It's a very good timeline to work. And I was talking to...
it's evident that the consumer prefers it that way. Does that make sense?
Well, I think...
Because of the amount of traffic and offers.
They also, if they're watching any of the gateways that we're setting up for them to look at houses, they see when the multiple houses start hitting the market. So it kind of scares them to go look at a house on Monday and Tuesday and make an offer when they're just going to have 2 more days before the good ones all start to hit. Not that
Correct.
these weren't good,
Mm-hmm.
but there's more that are going to start hitting and that they really want to wait and see what else will hit. So if you get in there and you're still on the market, then it'll be in the showing pool at the end of the week.
Mm-hmm.
But I had a seller, that's a conversation I just had yesterday when we were talking.
That's why like Tuesdays and Wednesdays, I look at stuff that made it through the
Stale.
weekend.
That's what I said. Here's your
And then I beat the following weekend. So I get something that didn't get multiple offers, but I can avoid it going through another busy weekend.
The person that I talked to yesterday, she's one of the persons that really wanted to get it started quickly. And the way that they were going to be able to get what they were going to get done, they were cleaning carpets and stuff, and they wouldn't be able to do pictures till all of that was done, was forcing me. The quickest we could list was a Monday. And I said, we're going to have to wait 2 days. And she's like, I really want it as soon as possible. And you said pictures, if I even did pictures on Friday, then I would be able to go live Saturday or Sunday. I said, going live on Saturday and Sunday, I don't believe is in any way good.
Correct.
It's too late. Monday's too early or too late, however you want to say it, and Tuesday as well. And I told her, I said...
You could pull a Wednesday. I could see that.
I list on Wednesday and no showings till Thursday.
Oh, same thing.
To get it started,
Mm-hmm.
and then the sellers have, some time to breathe, and you can actually start to see the lineup of your listings, your showings for Thursday. Get that feel of getting, ready to go. But... I was adamant, and I walked out of there thinking, I can't believe I just was so adamant about that, but that's how it works, in my opinion. It doesn't work better anyway.
The data's just there for it. I mean, to me, if you list houses, you know this at this point, and I just don't, so your client's like, hey, I want it as adamant as soon as possible. Explain to me the 3-day detriment.
Mm-hmm. That they won't.
There isn't one.
Yeah,
isn't one.
For that seller to have any idea, they're not in the market every day like we are. Whatever they come up with, I don't know what would matter in regards to how the market's going to be better for you in 3 days.
Well, let's say you're like, oh, well, but I have a vacation I'm going on, let's call it like right now if you were to list it, like, well, I have a vacation I'm going on, second week of June. Well, I can't guarantee you an offer in the first place. I can market it and I can put it to market the best way possible, price it the best way to sell as quickly as possible for the most amount of money. But I can't just create a buyer to force them to buy your house. That's we were talking about that as well, right? When an agent comes in and says, oh, your house is going to be gone over the weekend or in 7 days, there is not an agent alive who can actually validate that. It's just not true.
No.
Because it's dependent on the market. And unless I have the buyer myself, I can't say that.
Well,
I can feel optimistic, but I could never promise somebody.
No. And what it's all based on is whatever buyer walks through your front door that wants to make an offer.
Yes.
And when they want to do that. And I did go on a listing appointment in the past week, where the seller sat across from me and said, well, the person I spoke to just before you promised me it would sell in 7 days. And I just asked them, or said, I would never promise you anything. There's no way the word promise should come out of your mouth at a listing appointment that it's going to happen specifically as you think. And the other thing is the seller told them that they wanted to list it at this price, and that person said, okay, let's just try $10,000 higher. It's still going to be gone in 7 days. I was shocked that conversation even happened. And I just looked at him and I said, I'm not going to promise you that at all. And I'm not going to go on any price that what you've told me. I have to pick a price and show you why I've come up with that price. And then we'll discuss how to list it. But it was all decided by what the seller was saying.
I guess it's bit me in the butt before years ago, and maybe it's just lack of experience. Maybe it's, I don't know, desperation to convince can portray confidence. I've had gems of a house sit and turd selling hours. You know what I mean? Like, I've had some investment properties that just needed work, and man, like, I wouldn't even sell this to a friend. You know what I mean? Like, but like, you get an investor who's like, well, I'm going to go put $30,000 into it, blah blah blah. It totally makes sense for them. And so the idea that, like, I can feel pretty confident about it, but like, I just cannot promise
It's not
you that.
coming out of my mouth.
Yeah,
I can be confident about what I'm doing all day long, because I think what I do has a scenario that works every single time, and this is how I go about it. Mm-hmm. But nothing's ever going to come out of my mouth that this is exactly how it's going to happen, because it's so different.
Murphy's Law. It's the quickest way it's going to blow up in your face. You also talked
I think
about,
it's against code of ethics to sit there and make promises. I don't know, but making promises like that and have the seller in 8 days go, you didn't do it. Now what?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, what's the seller going to say? You promised me.
Yeah. Well, so, and then that agent's backtracking or whatever.
Well, yeah.
We're definitely, because
it rained yesterday, so we didn't get it. I didn't know it was going to rain. Well, you don't know what's going to happen, so don't promise anything.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like, we've had a bunch of stuff like that happened where, like, just something major happened somewhere and it just kind of shut everything down for a little bit. I mean, shoot, the Taylor Swift concert, like, added days on market, for goodness sakes. I couldn't have predicted that,
Yeah.
But then, like, once you saw it and you're like, oh yeah, it shut the city down, basically, like, that wasn't on my wife and my kids went to that show, and it wasn't on my radar that was going to impact my listings that weekend, right? But it did. I think last year was difficult for a lot of agents, right? I think that causes desperation and scarcity for agents, for business. And I think we just live in a world where agents are buying listings. And so that is, agents, I would hope, know what that means. And for consumers, that basically means I'm going to go in there and tell you whatever you want to hear just so I can get the listing, right? And then I'll figure it out on the back end. Because he also said that they were, like, pushing price and all this other stuff. Pushing price I can slightly understand, because, like, the seller may not actually have an educated interpretation of what their house is worth, right? But just doing it to do it.
I guarantee you they don't.
Right, exactly. So, I understand the pricing piece a little bit more, but I've gone into listings appointments where somebody had told them, like, $40,000 more than what I'm telling them. Mm-hmm. And I've still gotten the listing over that pricing or whatever. I've lost a listing to somebody saying $60,000 over it. I mean, it is what it is. It doesn't bug me. But it bugs me in the industry. It doesn't, like, bug me personally. Like, oh, I lost that one.
Well, and honestly, it doesn't bother me at all, because we've talked about this as well. The next step of that is, do you put a note on your desk and say, let's watch that and see what happens? I move on.
Oh, yeah, I don't look at
I
it
can't do it, but the part of me in my head is like, I'll watch and see if you got your extra $60,000.
The pettiness in you?
No, not pettiness. It's just like, was I wrong? Or what'd they get? Did they get it right? Or then when we see it's on the 90 days and they've dropped the price 4 times, I don't have time for that.
I don't.
But sometimes I just want to know, like, was I wrong? Like, did I mess up, or did they drop the price and end up at, $90,000 under what I could have done it for? So
if I don't get a listing, I have never once gone in and looked to see
me neither.
What it priced at or what it sold at, because I just have too much other stuff going on. I'll just move on. It puts me in a position where I either feel less than somebody or better than somebody, and I'm just not here for it. But
it is in the back of my head. The second that happens is, I wonder how that's going to turn out.
Yeah. I just think you got to be careful there. I don't agree with it, but I understand how agents are there, right? Because, I'm very blessed. You're very blessed. This is a very hard business to be successful in. And so I can understand, if you've been successful and you're not doing as well, where your head gets, or if you're just trying to be successful, but you're doing a major disservice to your clients and
yourself,
the market,
because you're going to be in a lot of angst in about 30 days. And I don't know if it's a lot of the agents that are talking about, throwing a number out there just to see what the seller says. Okay, we'll do that. Because like I said, been doing it for 16 years, and I remember sitting on the market for 120 days, 6, 7, 8 months. That is not fun. And it wasn't because I couldn't sell it. That was the market.
Yeah.
And if you've not gone through the process of having to talk to your seller every week about why it didn't sell or talking the price drop, those conversations are not having to be had right now as much. And when I sit there and talk to a seller and they say they want to list it at this price because they think they could get it, and I know that we're going to not be able to do that, all I see in my head is them getting mad and me having to have very uncomfortable conversations, because it does turn into being your fault because you're not getting an offer, period. It has nothing to do with price was too high, I told you so, anything. You're going to take the heat, and that's no fun.
Yeah, and I just think, when you get into it, it creates a bad experience for a consumer.
Absolutely.
It just does.
And it's always your fault as the agent.
I've had conversations with my clients where they want to push me on price, right? And, I'll be like, all right, like I'll do, like, let's say you push it by like 5, right? And like I've already priced it, like not aggressively, but pretty aggressively, maybe on a particular house. I'm thinking like a year or two ago I had one like this, and then I get pushed an extra bit. And I had to have a conversation where I'm like, that's fine. Like, I think we're fine to appraise right here. Like, I can see some wiggle room where we could pull an extra 5 or 10, as you were just talking about. I start getting above that, I'm going to start having appraisal issues. There's just no two ways around it. Like,
and
I can price your house at whatever.
You're not going to get multiple offers either.
You're not.
Because if it's a house that's listed at...
Which means I'm not going to bring it home. It doesn't matter what I list at. It matters what I bring you home, not what I list at.
And you can't price too low. That's what I say all the time too, and people just don't fathom that a lot of times. Because if I have it listed, let's just say at $350, and it should sell probably around $370 or $375. If I list it at $370 or $375, this is a great price point where there's going to be multiple offers. Nobody's going to want to start looking at a $375 and then pay more. But they're more willing, this is the weirdest phenomenon, but they're more willing to look at it at $350 and offer $375. Which is being within market. But the other part of that is they end up, I'm sorry guys, there's somebody out here about ready to hit a car. Can't stop looking at it. It's been,
anyways.
But I know, I'm like, it's in my eyesight right now. Oh my God. So, but they may even pay $380 or $390 because they were in the heat of the moment. But if you started at $370 or $375, they're not going to come in and make an offer because they already physically know, it's going to go higher than that, and that's the maximum value.
And then when they think that, they think 4.
And so
people round up. I've had a lot of discussions with how people round up subconsciously, right? Like if I say 365, people think 370, right? If I say 364.7, people think 360, and it's just not that big of a difference. But people just subconsciously they round in their heads.
The offers coming in is to also that people say my appraise what do you call it, the escalation, I'll go to 400, and I say so will the other 6.
Yeah.
So you need to do 401 or 402 and it happens again. Seeing the ones I get is how many people just stop on that even number. You have to be creative. And back in the day, even when there weren't multiple offers, but we could do 6 or 7 counters back in the day, and it was getting down to $2,000 at a time. Yeah. And I would throw in what's your anniversary date? What's your kid's birthday? What's this? And we'd go in at 400, 213 because there was a birthday on February 13th. And it always worked. It immediately stopped the counters. Yeah. Because they thought about that number. Yeah. And no, it's really a birthday. Yeah. We're just tired of countering.
Speaking of escalation clauses, we had a weird one last year, and the agent got frustrated with us. I'm curious what your thought is on this. They wrote an escalation clause that was open-ended. Didn't even have a price on it.
I got one about a month and a half ago, and we didn't accept that one. And
agent was upset with us, and we're like, I don't know what this is. They're like, no, it goes to anything. I was like, what? You know what I mean? Like, what do you?
I mean, it makes sense. For me, it doesn't upset me, But doesn't mean you're going to win. And I had the same thing. We did not pick that because there was other parts of the purchase agreement that did not go with what the seller wanted.
To me, it doesn't make sense because, and somebody can call in or whatever and totally disagree with this. I need to know your number, right? Because you saying whatever, I promise you that does not mean whatever. There's a number where that stops, right? And if I take this and then tell you the number, yeah.
Because you have to counter. You always have to counter.
I'll be like, cool, 100 over. You know what I mean? Well, like, let's say I have an escalation that takes you 80 over that you don't know about it.
Right.
How do I know you're actually okay with that?
Willing to do
because that being blank doesn't actually tell me where you really sit.
That's a good point. Very good point.
Because your, like, blank escalation may be 25,000. And somebody else wrote 50.
They didn't have a clue somebody would go that high.
Correct. And
so
to
that's
me,
a really good point.
Like, I need to know the number. Like, like, give me a number and we'll figure it out and we'll talk about it. But it leaves too much vagary. And like, I'm just a firm believer. We've talked about this before. There's an art to writing an offer.
Absolutely.
And I need it insanely digestible for the seller, that it all just makes sense. And you can't tell me when I present that to the seller, I don't care how good I am as an agent, and they'll be like, it's an open-ended escalation clause. They'll be like, well, what does that mean? I'll be like, it means they'll pay whatever. Well, like, what does that mean? What not? Like,
I like that idea. That's true.
It makes no sense.
But
it makes sense like when you say it, but in practicality application, it just doesn't work because it's reliant. So the agent can be as good as they are. I'm now reliant on the seller's consumption of it.
And the buyer to accept what they didn't know was going to happen to them.
Correct.
So with that, gets back to what I say all the time and I'm still to this day having trouble getting lenders to understand what I'm asking. A lender's pre-approval letter to me on the purchase price is one thing. But if I have appraisal gap or if I have a really big escalation, that pre-approval letter, I need proof of funds. Mm-hmm. Because if you're saying open-ended, well, I just went 90,000 over.
Like, I know it's not going to appraise up there, man. What are we talking? Like,
correct.
You got 90?
So then you give me 100% appraisal gap of $90,000.
And proof of funds.
And only proof of funds is for the sale price. But if we end up needing $90,000 more above and beyond what you pre-approved them for the down payment,
it's dead.
I need proof of funds. I asked my lenders to write in the proof of funds, a proof of funds note that they do have funds if we need to do the appraisal gap. And I have had buyers pick lenders that I don't normally work with, and those lenders will not do that. They don't understand what I'm asking for my buyers. And I said, then this offer is dead and worthless if I've got appraisal gap, period. Mm-hmm. Appraisal gap has nothing to do with telling me you're pre-approved for that overage.
I also had an interesting conversation last night that I thought was very relevant to the current marketplace, and I think we've talked about it before, like just it's been a little contentious in inspections this year.
Oh, yeah.
And
tell me.
So they're talking about, really pushing backup offers because
I agree with those.
This office, 30% of the deals this year had fallen apart in the middle of the transaction, which is a massive number.
Which is usually
30% is really, really high. Yeah, inspection or appraisal, right? And it will. So, like the idea of getting a backup offer, just we don't tend to live in the land of backup offers as much anymore because agents are pretty good and they get deals done and they get it closed or whatever outside of something crazy in an inspection. But I thought that was a really, really good point. I have a team meeting tomorrow and I was going to discuss it with them because. I mean, we've gone over the past 6 months where like backup offers, like I just want a offer.
Right.
What do you mean 2 offers?
I've put in backup
stuff was
offers.
sitting for like 40, 60 days. I've gotten backup offers accepted.
Mm-hmm. But
the other one fell apart and then we ended up getting the property.
What happens with backup offers though that I don't like is they are used
as leverage
to make a deal fall apart. So I've been on the other end of this, and I'll tell you why. So
I think that's less common than you think, but I can definitely see your point.
I just see it more than I would like to. So we had a backup offer in, and the agent physically called and said, we're just going to not accept this inspection stuff. We're just going to tell them,
Because the backup was higher.
more money.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And it happened to me when I had a backup in I said this to my buyers. They had a backup on this house, and the house listing part of it was going through the inspections. And we wrote our inspection response to them. I'm sorry, we were not the backup. We knew there was a backup. And I told my buyers immediately when that agent told me they had a backup, you're not going to keep this listing or this offer unless you accept it as is.
Yep.
And I said, we wrote the response. I said, make sure you are only asking for major things, very important things to you, because they're going to use this to get out of this deal, because I guarantee you the backup's higher. So we went through the process, didn't hardly ask for anything, and the seller came back and said, we're not doing anything. And I said, but this is major, and they said, we're not doing anything. I said, well, first of all, your listing is not an as-is listing. So that frustrates me when sellers come back and say they won't fix anything, when I did not walk into this as an as-is sale. I was able to ask for things to be fixed, and you're coming back and saying no to every single one. Well, that immediately, we did a mutual release because the things were very important to this, and it pinned the very next day.
Mm-hmm.
And I called the agent and I said, were you in backup for a while? Wouldn't even return my phone call. It just made me feel like there's a lot of crap going on behind my back that I knew was happening.
Here's the problem with this, though.
And I don't know if that's
You're not going to like
good
this.
or bad. And it was sold for more. I finally saw, what's the one I did watch?
You're not going to like this, though.
Go ahead.
Okay, so from where you sit, that sucks. That agent represented his seller to the best of his ability, and he did the best for his seller, actually.
I know.
I don't like the as-is piece that you're talking about. Like, I agree with you there. That's a very frustrating piece, but, like, the agent actually did his job for his client.
He did his job for his client,
for
but
the listing.
I thought it was a little backhanded that they wouldn't fix anything.
You're just mad you lost. Just mad you lost.
I don't know. That's where I think backup offers they're only used to kick the first place person out a lot of times, because
I don't know about but
they don't have to negotiate as much because they have one behind you. Now, if the backup's
it impacts
less,
inspection for sure.
It does. I think it
impacts
definitely
inspection.
does. But they don't, unless it's a lower price, it might not as much. But I've seen it go the other way. So if you're going to do a backup offer, put your best offer in, and but it's definitely worth doing.
Yeah. If you're the buyer, you might get a house because it could fall apart, right? And then if you're the seller, you might be able to get some insurance.
Not going back on the market.
Yeah.
You just boom to the next buyer.
Yeah. I will say, one of the interesting things before we get into stats, we'll get into stats here real quick, but with all these listings coming on the market, I will say this is some of the most diverse inventory that I think I said diverse. I meant diverse. But anyways, I think I added a T for some reason. I'm just getting old and evidently I have a lisp now. So this is the most diverse inventory I've been receiving in probably 2 years, where, we did a whole bunch of stuff that was, we'll call it 350 to 7, right? And then we would get a bunch of we'd get luxury listings and stuff. Like for me, I know luxury is technically over like 8 or 850 here locally. To me, it's north of like 1.5. I have a whole sticking point with luxury, that. Just the term of it, I guess. Not the houses. The houses are beautiful. But anyways, I've got a couple $200,000 houses that are like just really, really good. I've got condos, I've got houses, and we make sure we put a good product out there. And I know people don't want to hear that, but like that's affordable housing these days, and it's nice for there to be some affordable housing. But then I also we just listed a custom built ranch like last week, and it's $975, $1 million. Like we've got everything, like the whole price range is covered better right now with inventory that is coming on, in my opinion, than just all the vinyl stuff or all the stuff
all
that
the 400 to 500 in Fishers.
Yeah, or the like 5 to 6s that are hardy plank siding vinyl villages, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? I'm seeing much more diverse inventory coming on the market, and that is encouraging to me. I don't know why. I don't know if it's just a sample size of what is coming across my phone or whatever, but I do see a lot more of it right now. I see a lot more of the 70s ranches, that are Bedford limestone or brick or whatever it may be. I just feel like I've been seeing a lot more of that lately. And that's kind of nice because I do think there is a lot of people who are not super interested in some of the, I don't know, cookie cutter, 2-story, on a slab, vinyl wrapped house, and I get that. I get that. I lived, my second house was one of those. I get all that. But I don't know. I don't know if you've been experiencing that or not, or if that's just kind of like.
Well, I do have one going on the market in a couple of weeks, and Fisher's at like $275, I think, is where we're going to be. And I've looked. I had to check myself a couple of times, like.
Check yourself before you wreck yourself.
But just to think that I could list a house at $275 in Fisher's, like that exists.
You're like I did something
and it's
wrong.
a nice little. Yeah, I'm like, really? Like.
It's nice.
I know, and I think it's just going to be, it's a nice neighborhood. It's everything. So
one of these I'm listing is 200 condo in Carmel.
Well,
and it's not aluminum wiring.
1972.
It's not that complex. So, but it's kind of nice that and maybe that's why the market's so intense, because there is some better inventory coming on the market. It kind of set for the past 6 months in the sense of people were waiting and seeing, and so like I just have kind of an influx of inventory, which causes the diversity, right?
But those are the price ranges
out.
Nobody can compete. It is what it is. They're not coming in with $10,000 extra for unless they're getting money from parents. Yeah, it's like those price points. You can't. I just don't see 8 offers all over lists with appraisal gap of $10,000-$15,000. That
There'll
price
be 2
point
and
can't do it.
You can get it with 5 over list.
Yeah, because nobody else is going to be able to do more. And if they do, it's cash, and somehow that's going to be money from the parents. Like we did 21 and 22 was a lot of cash because that's the only way they could compete, and people were handing money over from that 401k. So yeah, I'm seeing the same thing.
So I'll do the stats real quick for me. For Fisher's, I had 29 go on the market, anywhere from 244 to just under 1.1 million. 18 of them are still active, so 11 pended that went on in the week, but I had 25 total actually pinned last week. Average days on market is 18, median is 4. That's for the week. That's the stuff that pended. When I actually pull like everything that is currently pended, so that's like it pended 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, blah, blah, blah. My days on market is 34 and the median is 7. So it's still pretty in line, It's basically like, you sell pretty quickly or you're going to sit for a little bit, but you'll still be fine. Noblesville, which was on spring break last week, I had anything from $85,000 for a list price, which is awesome, all the way up to 950. I had 32 of them go on the market. 23 are still active, so only 9 pended that went on the market in the week, which totally makes sense because they were on spring break. 29 total pended, and I have 141 on the market. Average days on market is 16. The median is 7. I forgot to do what the 30-day period was for it, just because Noblesville was kind of an outlier last week because of the because of spring break. So it'll be interesting though as it gets warmer out.
As school comes ready to get out too. Right now we're getting ready to walk into May though. May is a crazy month here. The 500 festivities. Everybody's going to graduation, so I think we're going to see a slowdown here, like the last 3 weeks of May.
I think we should do a live feed from the mini marathon, walking it, and Raquel has to walk backwards filming it. 13 miles. It's doable. It's like 4 hours of content.
They said
we could do
they're
it.
canceling it.
No way.
No, I'm not kidding. I'm not even kidding.
No, the way you said that, I can tell you're not kidding.
That is,
I just don't think
that
that's
would
a
be
thing.
false news. There's fake news. There's no way. Nobody listen to her. Erase that.
I'm gonna look it up right now.
Look it up, because I've got a bunch of friends who are in it.
People come from all over the world.
Mini marathon, right?
Correct.
Yeah,
Indy 500. But it's.
I did it last year.
People come from all over the world. There's no way. I'm going to do my stats while you figure that out. Anyway, Carmel. So what happened with me with Carmel and Westfield and Zionsville? A lot of inventory hit the market. So we went higher than many of the weeks we've been looking at. Carmel 57.
I don't know where I saw that. Sorry.
Because it doesn't exist.
Carmel 57 hit the market.
That's a lot.
19 of those pended, so not very many of those pended in the first 7 days, but a total of 35 did. So pendings were down, listings were up but that was spring break. The average days on market of all the pendings was 16, and the median was 6. So we're staying very low in Carmel. 105 are currently on the market, and the average of all 105 that are sitting there right now is 25, and 6 is the median. So we've really
That's active.
We've pretty much gotten rid of all the old inventory.
For the
in Carmel.
actives, the average is 25 days on market. Mm-hmm. That's stupid low. That's really, really low.
Unless I screwed up.
It's low. Even
It
if you
is
screwed,
low.
Even if you screwed up.
No,
Like
so we're getting rid of the old inventory. So Westfield 42 hit the market total, and 8 of those pended, and then 25 total. So not a lot of pendings last week. The average, Westfield's just the outlier. 60 was the average days on market the last 7 days, and 30 was the median. So again, just really much slower than they were, but nothing like back in the day when it was a lot more. 135 active there, 44 average days on market, and 13 median. Zionsville, 26 hit the market, so they picked up a little bit, but 21 of those pended. Zionsville is so quick. Mm-hmm. They just don't have the inventory, and everybody seems to want to be in Zionsville right now, especially the Village. So 21 pended, 28 total pended, so they lost inventory there. The average days on market, 10, and median 4. Super fast going in Zionsville. 50 active, average days on market, 25, median 4. So the amount that sold in the past 30 days was 35. So they just don't have very much inventory in Zionsville at all. So if you're thinking of selling, you're going to do well.
Yeah.
Can't promise that, but I would say you would.
Yeah, you'll do well. Just it's supply and demand, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think so. When I did the Fisher's number, it was interesting because I did look at like the oldest. So when I did the past 7 days, what had pended, right, where I got the 25 number, like of stuff that pended in the past week, the oldest was 121 days, and then when I did like everything that is currently pending, the oldest was like 525 days. Mm. So I mean, it's been on the market a year and a half. And those numbers are still that low, which means most stuff is selling, like for that large of a number to be in there and my averages to still be low.
You didn't kick it out?
I didn't.
Yeah.
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 Because to me it matters, right? Because like those numbers are actually
it's real. That's
way
why we
lower.
do average and median.
Yeah.
So
that's where you get the 4 and the 7 all of a sudden, right? So.
Well, yeah, and so 3 weeks ago, Carmel was 4 average, 3 median, and now we're 16.6. So, I mean, it is the spring market, and I think this is just where we're going to be. If you're a buyer and you're going to look at a house, you can't call your agent on Monday and say, let's make an appointment for Friday. I just don't think you can do that. And be ready for a multiple offer, but putting that in quickly. Because the thing I'm not seeing, too, is all offers due by Sunday night.
No, I'm not
Everybody's just taking the offers as they come, and it's going to close down within the first 2 days if it's a great house. You don't have any time.
I kind of like that.
I do too. Because here's the
thing. I
thing.
don't like the wait till Sunday shit just because it's just going to push everybody. Yeah.
It makes people go away too because they say, well, that
does.
just means it's going to be really too high for me, so buyers don't make offers. But
we did it during COVID because you couldn't get into a house.
Yeah, one by one by one.
Like right now, like you can get into a house, just be quick. Mm-hmm. But like COVID, like you literally could not get into it. Like houses would have sold in hours.
I remember you telling
me. Stuff
me.
is selling in like a day and a half. Like I know that's still fast, but like you can get in. So.
But I remember you, and this is so funny because I looked it up and it was happening when I would look. Getting on Waze and seeing the red on the street.
Traffic jams because of the house.
Traffic jams on the house. That was crazy. That's not happening now.
We did one. I tell people about this. Like we went into a house, and it was a busy house, and we waited till it was our showing time. We went in there, and my seller accidentally locked the front door. And so we're in the house and we're looking at it and blah, blah, blah. And like I see people waiting outside and like, so like, I don't know. I just thought they were doing what we were doing, like waiting to come in for their time. Mm-hmm. And we came out and they were like yelling at us, like, you didn't let us in. I was like, well, what do you mean? I was like, the door's unlocked. It was locked. And like you would have thought like I was going to get murdered out there. And like it was a complete accident.
Yeah.
And people thought we were up to something nefarious or whatever. Like, no, like, I don't know. They just accidentally locked the door or whatever. I was like, why didn't anybody ring the doorbell? Nobody rang the doorbell or
Yeah,
knocked. They just
yeah.
waited to come. So I
Yeah.
came out and were mad at me and all this
Yeah.
stupid. But that was the emotion of that market, and I do not want to go back to that.
No, me neither.
I'll do it
That
if we
was
have to,
horrible.
but I don't. That was
I don't think we'll have to go to that.
Yeah, that was not fun.
extreme no more. But so anyway, we're in the spring market. Just get ready. Go for seeing a house as soon as it hits the market. I just highly recommend that, because if it's the house that's going to sell in a day, you're going to miss it.
Yeah, I will say this: if you are a consumer and you see a Saturday open house this weekend, I would go to it, because you can probably get a house and not get competitive on it, because it's Easter weekend and a lot of people have plans or family events or whatever. You have to go see your parents or whatever, you have to do on Easter weekend, right? And you could get in and you could have less competition this weekend.
I think so.
100%.
Well, that
if you're a
gets
buyer.
back to, as a listing agent, going and making a decision of when to list. Should you list this weekend?
Oh, not a chance.
Probably not
Zero
be
chance.
a good possibility for the seller to get the most they can out of the house on an Easter
It's like
weekend.
listing on a Monday,
Or
right?
Mother's Day weekend.
You'll
or
still
anything.
sell it. I just can't promise you I get as many people to like.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what it really comes down to. I'm not telling you it won't sell. I'm telling you I can promise. I mean, I know we said we can't promise, but on this I can. I can promise you will not have the same amount of
Exposure.
exposure on it.
Yeah, the exposure is not going to be there for sure.
Yeah.
It's the same race weekend. It's like it's Memorial Day weekend, let alone it's race weekend. Like, you don't want to be anywhere
And it's
near
like
that.
graduation
It's
parties.
everything. It's
Yeah, a
everything.
whole
So
thing.
timing is important on specific weekends as well. So this weekend, but you just mentioned the Saturday open houses. Back in the day, when a person did a Saturday open house, you thought they were crazy. Like, what are you doing? They are on Saturdays only. I mean, Sundays only. These Saturday open houses I love for my clients, because they can get into the open houses and get and see more, and they go through, because they get an idea of just looking at houses. Maybe they might not be interested as much as wanting me to go with them.
And then schedule a showing Sunday.
The
With you.
Saturday's awesome.
Yeah.
I think they do very well.
We had one this weekend, and we had a massive amount of traffic.
I think the world's getting used to the Saturday, at least Indianapolis is, because
I
it
know.
was not normal, and you would never get anybody come through on a Saturday, let alone did they have them pre-made. You had to like make them by paper. Like
Yeah.
your writer, you had to
Write
write
it
it
over
with
it.
crayon on paper. It's Saturday.
Man. Anyways, all right. Well, hopefully we have warmer weather next week. But I am Kyle Morris with Morris Property Group and FC Tucker. My number is 317-649-5122.
And I'm Shelly Walters with the Shelly Walters Realty Group and FC Tucker, 317-201-2601. Bye.